In the field of intimate partner violence, there's a rich history of research that shows a link between early violence exposure in the home and neighborhood and the act of intimate partner violence. We need to look more closely at the causal impacts of intimate partner violence, or IPV. Our team sought to uncover how environmental factors affect childhood development over time and eventually culminate in men's IPV perpetration. In this study, my colleagues and I focused specifically on perspectives of men in bad intervention programs, or BIPs, to hear their stories of growing up in Milwaukee's inner city neighborhoods. Due to historically racist practices such as redlining, these neighborhoods are predominantly Black, low income, and have suffered from disinvestment practices. Marcel's words on this slide paint a picture of a neighborhood environment that has immense impact on a growing boy trying to find his place and identity in the world. We set out to explore IPV qualitatively from the perspective of men who have perpetrated violence against women. Our aim was to enrich theoretical models of IPV by identifying factors and potential processes driving the relation between environment and violent behavior. To accomplish this, we asked two key questions. First, what environmental level factors do men identify as critical for their development? Second, what processes help explain the association between ecological contexts and men's propensity towards partner violence? With the two largest Milwaukee BIPs participating, we were able to assemble 5 focus groups with 32 men total. On average, men were 35 years old. The majority of these men were African American, employed, never married, previously incarcerated, and obtained a high school diploma. Through focus groups, we created an atmosphere of cohesion and safety that encouraged participants to more readily share information. For this study, we utilized grounded theory to cycle simultaneously between data collection and analysis to build a conceptual model of IPV perpetration. Through this lens, we examined shared environmental characteristics and key developmental processes among men with IPV histories. Within our process, the team took great care to address unequal relations between researcher and participant. The researchers fostered credibility and legitimacy with participants by acknowledging the author's position of power, providing a rationale for the study, and providing personal information that illuminated shared experiences. We found that family context, neighborhood context, and socio-cultural political context all played an important role in shaping the men in our study. These contexts interacted across levels of systems to exacerbate incidents of violence in the home. Overall, 3 core categories linked to IPV perpetration emerged: adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and trauma; structural forces, which included positive and negative actors who affected social processes within the neighborhoods they grew up in; and finally, macro forces, which are large-scale systemic influences, such as criminal justice policy, that affect neighborhood physical and social makeup. In relation to ACEs and trauma, focus groups shared similar experiences with unstable home life, which included exposure to violence in the home, direct victimization in the form of severe physical or emotional abuse, and direct violence perpetration to protect their mothers or other family members. Many participants looked to the streets to escape violence in the home and to fill the void of missing male role models. Participants coined the phrase "in the streets" to describe the pull to find guidance for their identity development from males outside the home, which led some participants to glorify selling drugs and controlling women. With structural forces, participants shared similar neighborhood experiences filled with drug trade, gang life, and community violence that compounded with their exposure to violence in the home. However, while some study participants experienced socially connected neighborhoods with agreed upon social norms, keeping the neighborhood relatively safe and police out, other study participants experienced isolating neighborhoods where everyone kept to themselves indoors and featured chaotic social norms. With macro forces, study participants revealed a shifting landscape of socio-cultural political factors, which led to the breakdown of the family and subsequently the breakdown of more socially connected neighborhoods. The macro forces most cited by participants included mass incarceration, deindustrialization, and shifting gender roles. These findings present us with a few key ideas that reflect the perspective of African American men who perpetrated IPV and resided in low-income urban neighborhoods. First, at the macro level, mass incarceration upended Black communities by removing a disproportionate number of Black men. Increased joblessness was also a major factor in diminishing neighborhood social cohesion. Study participants also referenced how changing gender roles created tension in relationships between men and women. Second, at the structural neighborhood level, despite some men having more social cohesion and informal social control, all experienced violence in their homes. Even though some neighborhoods had more positive characteristics and potential benefits for men's development, IPV perpetration still resulted. This finding warrants further examination to examine how neighborhood social cohesion impacts IPV perpetration among men. Third, at the family level, the lack of engaged fathers, the safety in the home, and the need to earn income appeared to precipitate the premature onset of adulthood and propel youth to grow up in the streets, exposing them to extreme violence. Finally, underneath all of these events are very real implications for child development because exposure to violence has detrimental impacts on multiple domains of development, including behavioral, socio-emotional, cognitive, and physical. Overall, the study suggests that living in financially strained, unstable, violent childhood homes propelled participants to go to the streets to find financial stability, guidance, and purpose. Our findings demonstrate how specific environmental factors such as family-level poverty, instability and violence, neighborhood-level gang activity and violence, and macro-level mass incarceration, deindustrialization, and shifting gender roles can invade the psyche of men at risk for perpetrating IPV. The perspective of men who perpetrated IPV discussed in this talk help us to explore the root causes of violence. The perspectives also showed us areas we can explore going forward. For research, the field should look further at the role that socially connected and socially disconnected neighborhoods have on the development of children and ultimately the relation to IPV. Additionally, researchers should study the social and physical neighborhood factors that reflect concentrated disadvantage in relation to IPV. For practice, batterer intervention programs would benefit from integrating trauma-informed principles and practices into curricula. Additionally, effort to reduce incarceration rates should continue and grow. Finally, it will be important to engage more boys with positive forces to combat concentrated disadvantage. Policymakers should consider adopting policies that provide more opportunities for growth for Black youth to counter the damaging effects of legacies of historical racism left to communities of color. Approaches to how we work with men to change violent behavior will likely remain superficial if we don't address the root causes of violence, namely childhood and adolescent trauma, as well as community trauma. We would really be interested to hear how this particular study resonates with your own work. Please reach out to me, Laura Voith. You can find my contact information in the description below, as well as more information linking to the study. Thank you so much for watching.